Listen to how these reporters talk about Hurricanes Harvey and Irma.
Hurricane Harvey's unprecedented onslaught of rain.
Onslaught of waves ripping apart the coastline.
They're using language you typically expect to hear about war.
South Beach right in the line of fire.
The Bahamas and Turks and Caicos also in the line of fire.
News networks do this a lot. They cover natural disasters using the same tricks they use while covering war.
It basically looks like a war zone.
Compared to a war zone.
War zone.
Looks like a war zone?
Like a war zone.
There's dramatic graphics, helicopter shots of widespread destruction, acts of heroism in the face of danger. They even send reporters into hostile territory. Stop putting Chris Cuomo in harm's way. He's a national treasure. This wartime approach gives news networks a compelling way to tell stories about things like major hurricanes.
Thankfully, reinforcements are beginning to arrive.
The problem is, when you treat natural disasters like war, you need to find an enemy, some bad guy to fight against. And that's made us all really angry at the wrong things. The first and most obvious bad guy in any natural disaster story isn't actually a guy. It's
Mother Nature's fury.
Trying to stop Mother Nature.
Mother Nature has no boundaries.
I hate that phrase. The only people you should call mother are your actual mom and RuPaul. News networks use concepts like Mother Nature because it gives audiences a clear culprit to blame for what's happening.
The struggle against Mother Nature continues.
Swirling mess of Mother Nature's fury right now.
It's about making nature like human. And we are, by the way, separate from it.
That's Catherine Fry, who wrote a book on media coverage of the Great Midwest Flood of 1993.
It's a nice storyline, and it's easy because you can easily pick out the good guys and the bad guys, right? It's like good guys people, bad guy nature.
Mother Nature at her worst, human nature at its best. That when we see the worst from Mother Nature, we sometimes see the best from human nature.
Like you have mentioned before, while we are seeing the worst of Mother Nature, we are seeing the best of people,
Best
Chris.
of human nature, Rosa.
The problem with this frame is, well, stuff's not that simple. In a lot of cases, human choices explain why natural disasters end up being so catastrophic. Take Houston, for example.
One of the worst flooding disasters in American history.
One of the reasons Harvey caused so much damage is because developers have been allowed to build over the area's natural floodplains over the past few years. That's put tons of people and property in harm's way, and made it way harder for the area to absorb stormwater like the kind that came from Harvey. A similar situation has happened in Tampa, where unrestricted development has put people and property right on the city's vulnerable coastline.
A lot of the infrastructure here is very low-lying.
Barrier islands like Miami Beach, which are supposed to shield the mainland from storms like Irma, are now bustling hotspots, increasing the chances that any major hurricane will cause massive damage. The problem is made worse by reckless federal policy. The National Flood Insurance Program heavily subsidizes flood insurance, so people are incentivized to keep rebuilding in the same spot.
The family says that they will rebuild.
All of this is happening at the same time that climate change is raising sea levels and making powerful hurricanes more likely. But last year, the former head of the Harris County Flood Control District said he had no plans to study the effects of climate change on flooding. And Florida Governor Rick Scott has banned government officials from even using terms like climate change and sea level rise. None of that is Mother Nature. But news coverage that frames these as humans versus nature stories helps politicians shirk responsibility by depicting Mother Nature as some big, uncontrollable monster we can do nothing about.
Was the issue poor planning, or is the issue that this storm is just so overwhelming?
A reminder that man is sometimes no match for the forces of Mother Nature.
Which might explain why the Sunday after Irma hit, only one of the Sunday morning news shows even mentioned climate change.
Sometimes that's the detriment of the bigger context, the larger discussions around why are these natural disasters occurring? Why is so much damage happening?
This framing of disaster as war gets worse after the storm is over. That's when news networks focus on a new enemy, dangerous survivors.
Mass devastation in Houston has brought with it a breakdown in law and order.
Caught on camera, a man seen looting from a tanning store in the middle of Hurricane Harvey.
Fears now of looting. Many people say they're carrying guns.
And they're now afraid of looters.
Reporters, who often rely on law enforcement and government sources for information, tend to overhype the threat of criminal activity after natural disasters.
Law enforcement says this was needed to crack down on looting.
Police say they're also going to be out here to prevent looting. They want to make sure no one's kind of looting any of these stores.
It's an easy way for news networks to keep that war zone frame going after the storm has passed. There are good guys and bad guys. innocent victims and looters. It's also bullshit.
The looting theme continues to come up even though 60 years of empirical research tells us that looting is quite rare when disasters occur.
That's Kathleen Tierney, who studied the impact of media coverage after Hurricane Katrina.
They don't loot in disasters unless they're absolutely desperate.
Experts actually agree on this point. Reports of looting tend to be greatly over-exaggerated, but it's become a staple of hurricane coverage, and it can have really dangerous consequences. Fear of looting could convince people in harm's way not to evacuate.
A lot of homeowners have said they are hesitant to leave because they're worried about looters.
The looting myth often reflects racist stereotypes, like in Katrina, when news reports identified black scavengers as looters, but white scavengers as just looking for food. Media panic also gives license to politicians and law enforcement to overreact.
Reporting about looting carries a very strong message about the need for authoritarian social control, to prop up the idea that we need the cavalry to guard against these unsavory elements that are in our communities.
That overreaction can include aggressive, militaristic responses, like the kinds we saw in the aftermath of Katrina. Deploying military units to non-combat situations, enforcing strict curfews that discourage civilian rescue efforts, and ramping up police presence in disaster areas. Steps that Tierney argues could actually make it harder for survivors to get the help they need.
Sometimes the authorities misallocate resources to law enforcement that could be better allocated to actually saving people because of this myth that people are dangerous.
The result is that disaster areas end up looking like the war zones the media compares them to.
Good news there. Troops are on the way. I'm really happy to hear that the Marines are headed in because it does look like a war zone.
Natural disasters are chaotic and devastating, and it's tempting in the face of that destruction to look for an easy scapegoat, whether it be looters or Mother Nature. But things are just more complex than that, and reducing natural disasters to dramatic us versus them narratives makes it harder to think critically about the choices we make before the next big storm hits.